That's right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. Fantasy Alarms. Alarm Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Howard Bender. With me, of course, my main man. It's Andrew Cooper, everybody. Coop, what is going on? We got waiver wires for NFL Week 10. We're going to have to start talking about that. I feel like we need to do a little housekeeping, maybe close the door on NFL Week 9. But we know, everybody out there, waiver wire priority. Get your questions into the chat as quickly as you possibly can. And don't worry, listen, you know what? I mean, we understand that maybe there is a trade question out there. No lineup questions, but maybe a trade question in there that you guys want to jump in on. And we'll get to that. If you're watching here on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube page, you better smash that like and subscribe button and let's move on. Let's get it going here today. Coop, I mean, let's get the broom. Let's do the custodial thing here and kind of clean up from that hot, steamy pile of trash we saw on Monday Night Football. That was probably one of the more depressing things, like having to be on the better cast for the entire game was like, do you ever see that, when people do the side-by-side images and they're like, night 1, and then they're like, night 15.
It was a long night for the Jets. No question, man. I mean, dude, couldn't get anything going. And the crazy thing is the defense looked good. Like the defense was they were doing their thing, even when they were dog tired from, Thomas Moreland with 10 punts in the first half. 10 punts in the first half. I mean, yeah. So pretty ugly, man. And then at the end of the game, there was just no fight left. So there was no fight from either team. It was just kind of over. It just felt over, right? It felt over for a long time, actually.
Oh, I mean, it felt over in the first half. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It was 17-3 at the end of the first half. And, again, the big problem is your defense could be as phenomenal as possible. But if your offense is consistently going 3 and out or turning the ball over a couple of plays into a possession, I mean, your defense has no chance to sit, to rest, to game plan, or anything like that. And you saw that with the Chargers, because every time it was like, for the Jets, it was like a 3 and out, then it was a turnover, then it was a turnover, then it was another 3 and out. And the Chargers were like, screw this, man. Let's just run the ball here a little bit. Let's just, let's keep pounding it, because these guys are just freaking exhausted. And that's really kind of where it came down to. But I mean, listen, I'm so tired of hearing everybody blaming Zach Wilson and oh, well, our offensive line is trash, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I get that. But the problem is that it all starts at the top for me. And that's Nathaniel Hackett. Because once Aaron Rodgers went down with the Achilles, I knew we were done. Because Nathaniel Hackett cannot run an offense without Aaron Rodgers. And that was that's been on display for the Jets the entire time. I don't care if we've eked out a couple of games, couple of wins here. The offense just looks atrocious, and there's no excuse. That Chargers defense sucks, Coop. It sucks.
Right. And the thing is, I mean, you can't just have a guy go in. The offense is based entirely on audibles. Aaron Rodgers, the one thing he does better than any other quarterback in the history of this game, right? There's certain things that quarterbacks can do well. Tom Brady was the best at getting away with intentional grounding, right? Which is a huge skill in this game to be able it is a huge skill, right? To be able to find that. Aaron Rodgers, his ability to draw guys off sides and get free plays before the snap, he was a puppet master, really changing the play and drawing guys off sides and then recognizing it and taking big shots and chunk plays on that. I mean, how many times have we seen Aaron Rodgers draw a guy off sides and then throw a 40-yard bomb, and then we say, hey, you know what? We're not going to take that penalty, right?
The announcers are always like, free play.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Right. He's a free play. He's a pre-snap free play master, and you can't just have a young guy go in and expect him to do the same thing. So yeah, it's and it's impossible. You really can't do that, because they still want to have Rodgers around. They still want to have him next year, and according to him, maybe later this year. I know. I think we have a clip on that. Adam Bernard, if you have Burns, if you have that available.
Adam Burns. Oh,
when you coming back, man?
When are you coming back? Give me a few weeks.
Yeah.
I still don't. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I know Terrell Suggs came back, but Terrell Suggs was like in his like mid-20s when that happened, right? And I mean, now you're talking about an over 40 QB who, you know, did this damage, had the calf issue, you know, in the preseason, tore the Achilles, you know, in game 1. And I mean, come on. Do you think he comes back?
Actually, I mean, the answer is yes, but is he effective when he comes back? I think he does. I mean, knowing this guy, dude, like we know that this guy is not a normal dude. That has been pretty well established. I mean, he's doing ayahuasca and all these retreats, like he's hiding under a rock for like a week or whatever. So like we know he's not like a normal guy, right? So I could see him forcing his way back, brute forcing, and you know, saying whatever he has to say to medical staff and whatever to get out there. Is it going to be effective? I don't know, but I could honestly, I would not be shocked at all if this guy limped onto the field at some point.
I mean, listen, it would obviously be a stark improvement to what we've got going on right now. Like, you know, and that would, you know, and of course, everybody's going to be like, that's what's going to save Nathaniel Hackett's job. Aaron Rodgers, like that would be such the Jet thing to do, to have Rodgers come back in like, I don't know, week 14, week 15, week 16, something like that, where he comes back, and I don't even know if we're in playoff contention at that point or not, but all of a sudden we like look good for the last 2 or 3 games of the season because Rodgers is there, and then everybody's like, oh, okay, everything's great, and then we keep Nathaniel Hackett as our offensive coordinator because, you know, Rodgers is like, that's what I want.
Right. Well, that's what I was kind of implying, is that the moment that you lost Rodgers, if they, and teams don't do this, if they really wanted to get aggressive, they should have gone away from Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard and Nathaniel Hackett and gone a different direction. And you see it happens a lot more often with coaches actually getting fully fired, like the head coach getting fired. You just saw it with, you know, the Raiders, where they immediately went away from Jimmy Garoppolo. Like Josh McDaniels gone, his guy's gone too. Right. So I don't know. It's hard to do that when the guy is still hanging around. But what I saw yesterday was gross. And it was against a team that is, I mean, you're supposed to be able to ball against the Chargers. Are you not? Like you're supposed
Everybody
to.
Everybody is. Like, yeah. and you know, and Breece Hall was ripping off some chunk yardage, and every single time he had a run over 10 yards, the Jets had a penalty that negated it. I mean, Breece Hall would have hit the over on his rushing yards prop yesterday, which was 57.5. And he would have been totally fine with that. But I mean, there were at least 3 or 4 penalties that just probably pulled at least 40 to 50 yards off the board for Breece Hall. Might not have all been rushing. I know that there was like a 15-yard reception, you know, catch and run that he did, but I mean, it was just
killer, man. You know who was making a ton of mistakes, man, is the young tight end Jeremy Ruckert, 89, man. He had a bad game, dude. He had not just the penalties, but a couple times he was out of position. Like he had a rough game, man. So I can't. That's enough, too. We're talking about Jeremy Ruckert
now. Now when you start to steer the conversation towards a backup tight end who looks like crap, like then we know that we
gotta move on. I mean, CJ Uzomah looked pretty bad too.
Let's move on to an even worse situation for fantasy owners right now, because now it's like, are we reading the tea leaves properly? I'm trying to read it, but you keep clicking on that doc, so you better knock that off, buddy. I'm gonna slap you.
Okay. I usually make a copy because you know I like clicking around. I will now make a copy of the doc.
But here we go. So
everyone's safe.
Arthur Smith comes out and says that Bijan Robinson's impact away from the ball can open things up for other Falcons players. So, all right. So on one level, this is Arthur Smith saying that it's not all about Bijan Robinson, and him being on the field means that the defense knows that they have to key in on him, and possibly that opens things up to do those reverse inside handoffs to Jonnu Smith, because doesn't that make sense, right? But here's the thing. Let me throw this one at you, because we saw this last year with Tyler Algier didn't run hard in the early part of the season, right? And he was kind of an afterthought. And then halfway through the year, all of a sudden, Tyler Algier was getting mad carries. And I don't know if it was like we thought Atlanta was out of it or anything like that. But is this right now, is this that douche Arthur Smith trying to set up the decoy that is Bijan Robinson so that in the second half of the season, he's going to start feeding Bijan the ball like he did for Tyler Algier last year? Or is that just me like wishing in one hand and shitting in the other and seeing which one fills up first?
Well, I'll tell you, and here's where no matter what here's where no matter what happens,
heavy over on this hand.
Here's where no matter what happens, there you go, Burns. Very nice. Here's why no matter what happens, he's a bad coach. And here's why. Because he told us. If that's what he's actually doing, if that's what he actually wants to do, where he's like doing this whole, like he's playing, 3D chess and doing all this stuff. When you're playing 3D chess and when you're setting up all these super secret moves, the last thing you want to do is say, here are the secret moves I've been setting up, guys. Don't worry about it. It's like, if you're going to do that, yeah, wink, don't worry. I've got, you know what I mean? It's like, just keep that in the locker room and say to the guys, hey, you know what? It's about us here. It's about what we're doing here. Don't worry what they say. He comes out and says, hey, don't worry about it. There's a big plan here. We're using him as a decoy. It's like, okay, now why would you say that? I think it's an ego thing, and he's clearly he's clearly got a little soft spot for the media, because the media keeps asking him stuff and he keeps trying to defend it. It's like, do what the good coaches do, what Mike Tomlin does. Say the standard is the standard, and then these guys are going to get their roles, whatever that happens to be. Right? Don't come out and say, "Don't worry, I got a top secret plan, and you're all going to see." Like that's clear. That's not good coaching. It's not good coaching.
Arthur Smith is like, he's like the kid who gets beaten up at recess. And then when the bully is like almost in the school, in his classroom, the kid gets up. He's like, you're dead. You're dead. I'm going to get you next time. Right? That's Arthur Smith. So we've been talking about this.
He's killed. He's crushed all these reporters. Every time he takes a shower, he's in there just, punching water everywhere,
So here's the thing. We were talking about this. Was I speaking? Were you and I talking about this? I think with the way that Arthur Smith kind of called out the fantasy community when he was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just sit on the sidelines and tell everybody what I'm going to do, right? We attack where it matters the most. And the fantasy community just boycotts Federal Express. FedEx, done. You send everything via UPS, U.S. Postal Service. You want to go to DHL and have them deliver your packages, Amazon, whatever the case may be. It is now like the fantasy community needs to just hashtag boycott FedEx, right? Because, we see it right here in the chat. Who is it? It was, oh, here you go. Hal said it. Artie Smith is the most meh billionaire ever. So let's take a little something out of his pocket as a fantasy community, as a unified fantasy community, and say boycott FedEx, and maybe, just maybe, that like wakes him up a little bit.
And Howard, you want to hear something crazy? So the other day I was talking on the show about, I was going through his Wikipedia and being like, wow, this is a pretty big jump, right from graduate assistant to NFL coach, right? Somebody pointed out, that the team that he signed with, right, the Washington, at the time, the Washington Redskins, now the Washington Commanders. You know what the name of the stadium where they play is, right, Howard?
Yeah. Nepo Baby Stadium.
FedEx Field. Like, what a joke, dude. What a joke, man. It's crazy, bro. So, yeah, I don't know, man. We could go all day on Arthur Smith, but I mean, I'm just tired of him, man. I'm tired of him. And, I was tired of his mustache, and now that I see his face again, I'm like, put it back on. Put
please, grow a full beard or something. You'd be like a werewolf and just hide the whole face, because
the mask that David Njoku wore when he had the burns. Yeah, just wear that, dude.
That was pretty baller mask.
It was pretty badass. Yeah.
It was like the fur coat. It was open, no shirt, the washboard abs, and then that skull mask on his face.
It was sick, dude. Yeah, he caught like 7 passes too that that game. So hell yeah.
Njoku, I love him so much. Jared Moore said right here, Arthur Smith is not playing checkers. He's playing Connect 4 with missing pieces and a broken leg. Hal says Connect 4 with all one color.
That's perfect, dude.
This is just
an
absolute hot trash mess driving me up a freaking wall. But all right, let's how about this? Let's go to some good news here, Coop. How about the good news is that David Montgomery returned to practice. Now here's the question. Did Jahmyr Gibbs do enough in Montgomery's absence to convince Campbell that a 50-50 split is better than the 80-20 split that was happening early on in the season?
Absolutely. I think absolutely. And I'll tell you where it's going to come from a lot of times is that these one read plays, right? The one read plays, obviously run plays are one read plays, but screen passes, things like that. Like if you go back and watch, David Montgomery was getting a decent number of sometimes David Montgomery would line up at wide receiver and they would just throw him like a quick hit screen pass. I think you're going to see Jahmyr Gibbs get a lot of those, take the workload off David Montgomery. I mean, and the thing is, it's two-sided because it's not even just that Gibbs has played so well, but now David Montgomery's gotten banged up multiple times. So if you're a coach and you say, hey, you know what, we can take some of the workload off this guy now. We don't have to rely on him as much. I think they have to take advantage of that. So I think both guys are going to be good, man. I think it's really, honestly, the predictions that we made that this could possibly be, the closest thing we're going to get to rookie Alvin Kamara playing with Mark Ingram, where Mark Ingram still scores 13 touchdowns, and they're both RB1s. I think the rest of the way, this could be that case because this team has a great offensive line. They have a quarterback that has no interest in running himself in any situations, right? They run a bunch of offensive plays. They dump it down a ton. I think conditions are pretty damn good for everybody over there right now.
I think conditions are very, very good right now. I was starting to do the watch list also, and I'm just looking at this matchup. Lions-Chargers this week. That one's going to be a game and a half, man. That one to me is probably the one that everybody's going to invest in. And I would love to see David Montgomery back for that one there. I mean, that would just be, can you imagine just having the Lions now off of the bye week, firing on all cylinders. You got Montgomery, Gibbs, and then in the receiving core, you've got a healthy Amon-Ra St. Brown, rested Amon-Ra, Sammy Laporta, and then, sprinkle, whatever you got in there, Jameson Williams or Josh Reynolds. It doesn't even really matter because
Donovan Peoples-Jones can stretch the field. I will say
all right. So are you interested in DPJ at all now that he's with Detroit?
I think I would be now to me, he's a little side eye. I'm giving him side eye DFS looks. I'm monitoring the DFS. Yeah, right there. I'm like looking. I'm like, let's see what the price is over there for DFS because I think there will be a game where he just gets behind everybody and Jared Goff can find that guy and he's interested in making that throw, which is he has no problem chucking it up to Jameson Williams and Jameson Williams' catch rate is less than 50. Jameson Williams' drop rate is like over 50%. So he's had no problem chucking it up to a guy that's not catching him. Might as well chuck it up to a guy that maybe will catch them.
All right. Beautiful. All right. It's kind of a slow news day today. We're still waiting for more injury news to come out, but we know that it's Waiver Wire Tuesday. We know that a lot of you who play on ESPN or Yahoo, even on Sleeper, turn around and have waivers to run through tonight. So what Coop and I want to do is I want to just kind of run through, do a nice quick glance at the top 3 players at every waiver wire position. I'll give you the players. Coop will give you the quick takes, and then we'll get to the questions in chat, and then we'll also kind of expound on some additional thoughts. So, Coop, are you ready for me?
I'm ready, sir.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for tuning in to Alarm Fantasy Football. I'm Howard Bender, Andrew Cooper by my side. It's time for the top 3 waiver wire pickups for NFL Week 10. Right here, right now. Coop, top 3 waiver wire quarterbacks. Joshua Dobbs, Minnesota. Taylor Heineke out of Atlanta. Gardner Minshew of Indianapolis.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at that list, I actually kind of like all of them, but Joshua Dobbs, you have to go out and drop the bag on this guy. If you're in if you lost Anthony Richardson, if you lost Kirk Cousins, this is your opportunity because we watched this guy with the Cardinals and he was running the ball. He was, firing it around. He was throwing to the tight end a ton. Trey McBride got 14 targets in his last game there. Now he gets a tight end upgrade, right? He came out and ran the ball last week 7 times for 76 yards, had a touchdown, threw for 2 touchdowns without even knowing the plays, right? It turns out that I didn't know this guy's a rocket scientist, apparently, right? So, I mean, he's smart enough. So just imagine him going from driving this beat up Honda Civic, through the potholed streets of Providence. Now he's driving a Lamborghini, right? And eventually Justin Jefferson could be back, and he's going to have the keys to one of the best offenses in the league. So Joshua Dobbs should be on waivers in 0 leagues right now. 0.
All right. Top waiver wire running backs right now. Top 3, Keaton Mitchell from Baltimore, Zach Charbonnet from Seattle. How about Leonard Fournette from Buffalo?
Yeah. And again, we talk about who should be adding which guys. Leonard Fournette, if you need somebody to start right now, you can't add Leonard Fournette, but I like him as a stash. Keaton Mitchell and Zach Charbonnet, these are the exact kind of guys that you need to be adding because they're young, and there's been talk about them all throughout the offseason. It's not like they're coming out of nowhere and the starters just kind of hurt and it's just a who's next type of situation. Zach Charbonnet has earned that password. And this week, Kenneth Walker, another week away from the injuries, he played all the 2-minute drill snaps again. In fact, he played so many of them, he played more snaps than Kenneth Walker. And Keaton Mitchell is just a matter of, you look at the speed this guy has, you look at Devon Achane and what he does, and you look at J.K. Dobbins and how he operated in this offense. He had so many of these like big 70-yard touchdowns. You have to give a shot to a guy like Keaton Mitchell because we know what Gus Edwards is, we know what Justice Hill is, but we don't know what Keaton Mitchell is, and we don't know what he could be. So, these guys, I love what Britt did with the article this week because, we don't always match up, but with the quarterbacks and running backs so far, going through, right on cue, right exactly what I would have had.
FantasyAlarm.com waiver wire article from Britt Flynn at Britt_Flynn, Flinn, on the old Twitter machine. Look at the top 3 waiver wire ads for wide receivers right now. Coop, Quentin Johnston from the Chargers, Tank Dell out of Houston. And how about this? Demario Pop Douglas, ya boy, Coop, out of New England.
Pop. Yeah, Pop is more of a full PPR type player. Same with Tank Dell. Quentin Johnston, first round pick coming out. Obviously, they love Josh Palmer, and when Josh Palmer's healthy, he could get that job back. But Palmer's on the IR now. And I'll tell you what, Quentin Johnston yesterday had arguably the most difficult assignment that you're going to have, which was you can't really judge him based on the game last night because the Jets, they run 70% of their snaps are zone. DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner, they only stay on the outside, and that's where Quinn Johnston had to live. So he had the toughest possible assignment, and he still looked okay doing it, and they were willing to throw him the ball. So moving forward, this guy's going to be on the up and up. Trey Palmer, I think he's still an injury away to a Chris Godwin or a Mike Evans from really being relevant, but he's getting a decent snap share, playing a huge chunk of snaps, so he's not bad there. And I also want to throw one more name out there for the real deep leagues out there is rookie Cedric Tillman from the Cleveland Browns. They traded Donovan Peoples-Jones away because they weren't really using him. Like, he was playing a ton, but he wasn't getting a lot of targets. They looked at their depth chart and said, hey, you know what? DPJ is not really doing anything here. We can fill that role with somebody else. In comes Cedric Tillman. He played more snaps than Elijah Moore even, and just as many as Amari Cooper. He's the new DPJ. He's going to play a full snap share. And, in dynasty leagues and deeper keeper leagues, he's a guy you got to keep an eye on.
All right, a couple of bonus wide receivers in there for you deep league waiver wire people. Let's wrap it up here. Top waiver wire ads at the tight end position. What does the tight end whisperer have to say about Luke Musgrave out of Green Bay, Cade Otton out of Tampa Bay, Jonnu Smith out of Atlanta?
Yeah, this is one where I slightly differ from Britt. I mean, her write-ups are perfect on it. I know she doesn't have them that different, but she had Luke Musgrave as the top pickup. If Christian Watson is out for extended period of time, I know he's dealing with a back situation, possibly a concussion. If he's out, then Luke Musgrave's the guy. But Cade Otton, man, there's no difference right now in what Cade Otton's doing than what you would get from a Dallas Goedert. And I know Dallas Goedert, he broke his arm, but Dallas Goedert, he was the third fiddle on a team, but he played virtually every snap. And I know, right? That tackle was just ridiculous.
That tackle was so gross. It looked like somebody was like wrapped up in like a wrestling move and then just came down on it. It was like Ricky Bobby getting his arm broken by Jean Girard.
I literally said no out loud when I was watching it. I was like, say you like tiny pancakes. Like literally. But anyway, so I'll tell you, Cade Otton, the last 2 games, they've dropped back to throw 90 times. This guy's run 84 routes. In the last 3 games, he's had 6, and now I believe it was 9 targets this week. Cade Otton is as dialed in as it gets. And God forbid something were to happen to Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. Now he is in a position to have true difference-making upside, as we've seen Dallas Goedert have when A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith are out. So Cade Otton is actually the guy that I'm prioritizing this week.
I love it. All right. Well, there you go. Those are your top waiver claims at each position. Again, the waiver wire article over at fantasyalarm.com. It's done by Britt Flynn. If you're following her on Twitter and X, then you know it's at Britt_Flynn, Flinn. If you don't follow her, well, then you're just doing it wrong. There it is. There it is. All right. Let's weave over to the chat here. Again, we got some great people in the chat here. Lots of questions piling up already. I do love the Arthur Smith bashing, though. It is very entertaining. But here we go. Let's get to a couple of questions here. I got Bill Dino who says, I've got an open spot after dropping Roschon Johnson. Waiver in this order: Keaton Mitchell, Deonta Foreman, Tyler Algier, Zach Charbonnet.
So you dropped Roschon. If you have to start the player this week, it's Deonta Foreman. But otherwise, I'm going after Keaton Mitchell. I just want the unknown upside. The guy coming in, he's been hurt all year, so it's not like he lost the competition. He just hasn't had a chance to be involved in it. So I'm going for the exciting play in Keaton Mitchell if it's a bench stash. But if you got to put him in the lineup, it's probably Foreman, right?
Yeah, it seems like it's a bench stash for him. He says it's an open spot after dropping Roschon. If you're dropping Roschon, Keaton Mitchell would definitely be the next step to stashing a guy for the future.
Yep.
Nino Pena's in the house here. Do you guys believe Taysom Hill will have a consistent role in the Saints offense or kind of fall off again? Before you say anything, Coop, because listen, you hate Taysom Hill.
Dude.
I hate Taysom. I've got a text from you that says, I'm so effing done with Taysom Hill. And I agree with you. He was a big reason why I faded Alvin Kamara this past week. I put him in the DFS, playbook, but I said to everybody, I warned everybody off of it. This is going to be, possibly a bad situation. You look at the matchup for the Saints this week, and it's very interesting here. It's the Minnesota Vikings, who suck against the tight end. Now, we can turn around and we can be like, oh, well, Juwan Johnson. But I feel like with the way that Carmichael runs this offense inside the red zone, I feel like Taysom Hill is now catching passes, is running it in himself. And, so he's playing, I don't know, maybe 30% of a tight end and 70% everything else. But when you've got a soft matchup like this, do you turn around and say, I can't sit and just be mad at this guy over and over again for ruining Alvin Kamara and the rest of the team? I got to, treat my fantasy team right. Taysom Hill, I like him this week a little bit.
Yeah. And every week in the rankings, you get to a certain point where you just say, F it, it's Taysom Hill and then he's the demarcation line, where it's like, okay, elite guys, you got Kelsey, Andrews, Laporta. Obviously, we're going to consistent targets. We start those guys. And then at a certain point, there's a line where it goes Taysom Hill. And then after that, it's everybody else. And that line keeps going up from week to week. Now, if Juwan Johnson were still out, the week before Juwan Johnson came back, Taysom Hill ran 44 routes to only 15 for Foster Moreau. If that were still the case, Taysom Hill would be ranked top 5. You could not rank him top 5. Now he's probably more of a back end tight end 1. But to Howard's point, like you saw it last year with Jamal Williams. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you get down the red area and you give it to Jamal Williams and he scores every damn time, you saw it with LeGarrette Blount with the Patriots too, with 18 touchdowns, with him 18 touchdowns. If it's working every time or is working at a crazy high rate, you don't stop doing it. So with Taysom Hill at this stage, it seems to be consistent. The one piece of advice I would give people is don't drop your current tight end. Try and roster 2. Because if you get down the stretch in fantasy playoffs and we have a couple games where Taysom does disappear, now you got to consider that you got to win 3 straight games here in fantasy playoffs. Last year, Taysom Hill did it. But if he's not consistent, then you might want to try and have other options. But right now, from a weekly standpoint, it's very difficult to look around and say, okay, even Hunter Henry, who's very good in the red zone, Taysom Hill has a better shot of scoring than Hunter Henry. He's a better shot of scoring a touchdown than any tight end, even Mark Andrews, honestly. So especially in standard or half PPR, it's, you just got to go. You just got to go there.
Yeah, I agree. I hate myself for it. I'll take a shower after starting them in any league, but you got to do it. Oh, look at that. The waiver wire queen herself, Britt Flynn, Her Majesty, fresh off the lightning round with you guys, you and Kev Tompkins, is in the house spouting news here for Thursday and beyond. CJ Henderson and Brian Burns just got ruled out for Thursday. Brian Burns, what happened?
I love and respect Brian Burns, and he's got to do what he's got to do.
He's got to do what he's got to do.
Apparently, he's got to do what he's got to do. So fire up that that Bears passing attack.
What's up, Burns? Are you not feeling good, buddy?
Aww.
I have nothing but the highest regard for Brian Burns.
Britt also adds, here we go. The Rams are adding Wentz as a backup to Matthew Stafford. So does that change? You know what? Does that change your waiver wire thoughts about these other guys? We were talking about Josh Dobbs. We were talking about Gardner Minshew. And I don't even know who's the third guy that we were even bringing up there.
Josh Dobbs.
Oh yeah, Taylor Heineke.
Taylor Heineke. Yeah, I mean Heineke's.
You know what? Can we for this week only? Do we replace Taylor Heineke with our good friend Carson Wentz? Because let's face facts, the matchup for Atlanta this week is so flippin' tempting with Atlanta taking on Arizona that everybody's like, why wouldn't I start Taylor Heineke against Arizona? Wouldn't it just be the Arthur Smith thing to do, to just run the football the entire game?
Yeah. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's 3 touchdowns. That was a non-game, so it's entirely possible. I mean, Carson Wentz, we'll tell you this. If you're looking for types of quarterbacks, right? Like, you're not going to replace Justin Fields with Carson Wentz, but Matthew Stafford at this stage, kind of like the Tin Man back there, Carson Wentz he's like Lunchables version of Matthew Stafford, is he not? I
love Lunchables. What are you talking about? I love Lunchables so much more than I love. I wish I was a little kid so that I didn't feel so guilty when I go to the store, being like, "Hey, Deb, let's get some Lunchables." Yum 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 yum.
The more you think about it, it's just cheese and crackers. But just imagine a pizza from your favorite pizza place and then a Lunchables pizza. That's Carson.
Okay.
Just the sauce and this chili.
Think about a pizza from your favorite pizza place, and now think about a Lunchables pizza.
That's Carson Wentz, but it's technically kind of the same vibe, right? Like, you're getting it's the same ingredients, right? To some degree. So I mean, they could do worse. They could do worse, I think.
I want to see, you know what, Brian Burns, since you're taking off Thursday night football because you're not feeling well, maybe we can create some sort of a little what does Coop think about Carson Wentz? And then we get that. I want to see that clip posted every
I want to get killed for that every time, dude.
Dude, I
He's
love
already
that.
on it.
It's
Burns
so true,
says
though. Carson Wentz, forget Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz blows. He does.
Fair enough.
All right, Better Boss says he's happy for Joshua Dobbs. What a wonderful example of persistence. You know what, man, dude, listen, how do you not love Joshua Dobbs? Literally doing videos to the fans as he's introducing, he's just been,
man.
Yeah, he's been great. I definitely dig him, and I wish him nothing but massive success. Especially, listen, Kirk Cousins, a little long in the tooth. If Dobbs works out, I would love to see, him possibly get that opportunity.
Yeah. Absolutely, dude. And here's the thing is that even Packers fans right now, and I don't want to speak for all of them. I'll ask Hal. Hal, you're a Lions fan. Even you guys, you got to look at Joshua Dobbs and be like, this is kind of cool. And, kind of root for the person. And then if he starts winning games, right, then you can start hating him because he's now a Viking. But for the time being, right, if he's winning games for the Vikings, then of course you start hating him. But for the time being, it's such a good story. You gotta throw him a bone here. What do you think, Hal? Are we going to allow it? Are Lions fans going to allow it?
Yeah, let's find out. Let's find out with that. We'll put an NFC North poll out to everybody just to to kind of figure it out. Brett Flint says Chuba Hubbard getting the start Thursday with Miles Sanders splitting snaps with Raheem Blackshear. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. We saw that coming a mile away. Here you go. Scott Frankel in the house. What's up, Scott? Good morning to you, camper.
Family, baby. What's up?
Damn. If Dell or Douglas is still on your waiver wire, I want to play in your league next year. Yeah. Well, Dell, yes. Douglas, I don't know, man. I mean, are we really that enamored with, what we got out of Douglas this past week?
Yeah, it's definitely a full PPR setup. I will say, like, he has been stifled on every screen. At some point, he's getting negative yards on these screens they're running to him. Like, at some point, he's going to pop one off, and then we'll see the true pop Douglas. But for the time being, he's really just full PPR. That's it.
Brad Thomas in the house. Would you drop Jaleel McLaughlin for Elijah Mitchell?
Yeah. What are you doing with Jaleel McLaughlin? Hasn't done a whole lot lately. Javonte Williams is back. Jaleel McLaughlin is kind of his situation is comparable to Dalvin Cook kind of right now. Like, is he playing all that much more than Dalvin Cook? Javonte Williams and Breece Hall are just going up. And Samaje Perine is your Michael Carter that pops in for catches every once in a while. So McLaughlin is more of a true deep handcuff than he is anything that could. He's not going to turn around and carve out a role, but Keaton Mitchell could.
Rod Elliott in the house. Rod just celebrated a birthday. Happy birthday, Rod.
Happy birthday, Rod.
Waiver wire priority here. What do you do? Dobbs, Heineke, or Howell? How about Sam Howell thrown in there?
Howell being out there. So I wouldn't even really necessarily go after Heineke. I wouldn't use priority on it. I wouldn't use fab on it because it's still kind of wishy-washy whether he's going to start rest of the year. Dobbs versus Howell is kind of tough, man. Howell is just he's brute forcing his way into fantasy relevance because they're dropping back more than any other team and not giving up in these games. And now he's willing to throw it up for grabs to John Dotson. I think I still would go with Howell. Man. As fun as Dobbs is, he's still got to learn an entire playbook like this week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. I did just fine without it. Who the hell knows?
Forget it. It's like, I think it's still got to be Howell.
Dude, that embrace between Kevin O'Connell and Josh Dobbs after that game, brought a tear to my eye.
It was literally
really did.
It was like in a movie when the astronaut gets back from space and he meets up with the guy that he's been talking to through the headset the whole time. And it's like, we did it, it was poetic, dude.
Harry Stamper never made it back from space.
R.I.P. dude. R.I.P. Harry Stamper. We'll have to eat some animal crackers in his.
Oh, there it is.
In his honor.
When you do a really bad Australian accent.
Every throw he threw over 15 yards was catchable. I mean, Amari Cooper caught all 5 of 5, and Elijah Moore had some opportunities that didn't quite capitalize on. But I mean, he looked good, man. He was chucking. So I'm holding on to him. I imagine Brad Thomas probably has. There's a lot of good teams on. He probably has Hurts or Mahomes or
Tua.
Or Tua, yeah. So
guys on a bye this week. That's right. Rams, Chiefs, Dolphins, Eagles all on a bye this week.
That's rough. So yeah, if that's the case and you're just going one night only, it's got to be Heineke or Minshew. Heineke. Did you just play it safe with Heineke versus the Cards?
Why wouldn't you play Watson against the Ravens?
Oh, if Watson was a big weird mess over there, it's Otten and then Henry and then Everett I could do without.
Yeah. I'm with you. I am with you. Bill Dino saying that Fields listed as a limited participant in practice. Khalil Herbert, full practice there. So
interesting. Very
interesting. Khalil Herbert against the Carolina Panthers. Ooh.
Rest in peace to Darrington Evans. I imagine that they probably don't got a whole lot of roster spots left over there for those guys.
Let's see. Who else do we have here talking about Tank Dell? What do y'all think of Ty Chandler? I
don't think much about him. I mean, there was a lot of Dynasty Twitter hype for a couple weeks there, wasn't there?
Sure was.
Yeah. For just a little bit,
Yeah. All right, we'll see. We'll see. All right, we'll jump back into the chat in just a hot second. But before we do that, we always love to shout out our favorite people out there. That's right, sponsoring today's show, Underdog Fantasy. Here's scan that QR code right now, people. Go use fantasy. You can either there it is.
There it is. Over on his side there. You got it.
You can either scan that QR code itself, or if you're not scanning it, go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog. Use the promo code ALARM. All right. They're giving you still 100% match deposit up to $500 over there. Yeah. I mean, they're still doing it. They're extending it because people are just jumping in on it. And Underdog's like, sure, let's do it. So let's give them, we love their pick'em contest. We do. If you guys haven't played over at Underdog Fantasy right now, the pick'em contests are fantastic. Pick 2 to 5 players, take a look at what their stat lines are over there at Underdog, and decide whether or not they're going to go higher or lower. So the more picks that you make, you do anywhere from 2 to 5, the more you make, the higher your return value is on your original investment. So let's help everybody along here. Now for Thursday Night Football, we've got our little featured freebie from Underdog. Big thank you for that. Bryce Young, half a total yard. Well, we know he's going higher. We know that for a fact. And so take that nice little gimme. Now let's come up with a couple of picks that kind of make it worth their while here. Also, Coop, will make them a little 3-legger here. What do you say?
Yeah, so I know that that's a slam dunk, but I just want to point out that technically they've done a bunch of these and 2 of them hit the under, the bonus ones. Aaron Rodgers got hurt, and then Bijan Robinson got a headache. So I mean, the odds of that happening are so low, but it's just kind of funny that did happen. But yeah, no.
All right, doom and gloom. Let's go.
Bryce Young should be a slam dunk. But yeah, I'm not going with a Thursday one yet. I will have a Thursday play for you guys. As we get closer to each game, they add a ton of them, right? So we like doing the tackle monster bet. The defensive guys are not in there yet, so we will do that as we progress throughout the week. One that's in there already that I want to get in and set up and locked up is Aaron Jones. 54.5 rushing yards this week going up against Pitt. So Pitt, we always think, oh, good defense. They're awesome, but they're a very aggressive defense, right? Which has led to a lot of sacks, and it leads them to kind of struggle on the run side and let guys break off big chunks. In fact, they're allowing the 4th most rushing yards per game, 133 rushing yards per game Pitt's allowing. And last week, Aaron Jones came out, got back to a full workload, got 20 carries. So 54.5 rushing yards against a team that's letting up 133. I'm going to go higher on that one.
Going to go higher on that one.
There it is.
All right, I can dig it. I can definitely dig it. All right, I'm going to do a Thursday night game, and I'm going to go with Chuba Hubbard. All right, 13.5 receiving yards. Now, yeah, this past week it was like 4 catches for 9 yards. Nothing really kind of developed off of that. He ended up hitting his prop based on the fact that he had 58 rushing yards. But I'll tell you what I like here about going up against Chicago is that Chicago adding Montez Sweat has helped increase their pass rush. And what's the best way to negate a pass rush? We saw it with the Jets last night also. Dump off passes to your running back. We saw this in the Chicago game. What was it? The week before, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the week before. Oh, it was, who was the running back against Chicago the week before? Why can't I all of a sudden I'm blanking on the name and I feel terrible about it.
Well, I'll pull it. I got you, buddy. It was.
I'm here. Oh, it was Eckler.
It was Eckler,
right?
and
it was Eckler who had 7 catches for whatever yardage there, but that's what they did. They utilized the pass catching running back in order to make that happen. So with Chuba Hubbard being the guy who's on the field in those passing downs as well, because it's not Miles Sanders and it ain't Raheem Blackshear either. So I think in this matchup here against the Chicago Bears, because once you get, a couple of passes out in space against the Bears, because their pass rushers have already overcommitted, there's really nobody else out there to help tackle. And Chuba Hubbard can get into that next level without any issue there. So I say higher than 13.5 receiving yards.
And it works a lot like the Jaguars. The Jaguars do the same thing. The Jaguars are letting up the most receptions to running backs this year. The Bears are bottom 5. I think they're last time I was looking at it earlier this morning because I was looking at the Jaguars and Christian McCaffrey playing them, and they let up a ton of receptions. But the Bears are right there on that list. And you go through and you look, and it's like even Rashad White had 5 receptions. Aaron Jones had like an 80-yard receiving touchdown week 1. So like you can definitely throw the ball on the Bears to the running back.
All right. So there you go. Again, guys, Underdog Fantasy is where you want to be. Go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog. Use the promo code ALARM. They'll do an instant deposit match up to $500 on your first deposit. You can also scan this little QR code that's sitting right here in front of me right there.
There it is.
So big shout out to Underdog Fantasy. Let's get back to the chat. Let's see what we got going on here.
And folks, just know for those underdog funds, I just want to say one last thing that that it's the same pool of funds that we use for the best ball drafts. So it's not like if you put the 500 in, you have to use it all on Pick'em. I mean, I'm going to by the end of the year, but it's the same that we do for the underdog drafts we do all year round. So like you're going to use those funds, right? And I mean, honestly, you're probably ended up with a ton of money in there because we're really good at this. But I mean, it's not like you have to go out and use it all in pick'ems. Like they have a ton of different things. All year we do best balls over there. So get in on that.
Yeah, it's a full featured site. Lots of stuff happening there.
It's super cool.
All right, back to the chat here. Ethan Batterman in the house after losing Darren Waller. I am stuck with Musgrave. A guy in my league wants to trade me Pitts, Thomas, or Kmet. Is there one that intrigues you? I would try to give up Darrell Henderson, half-point PPR.
Yeah. So
Kyron Williams coming back this week? I mean, he's on a bye this week, so
after the bye,
next week
he's eligible. He's eligible to come back, but again, it's like we saw with Jelani Woods. Sometimes you hit that 4 games and you're not ready to go. Or
do you have an example that's not an obscure tight end?
I was actually going to bring up 2 others.
Who? Like
Pat Fryer,
tight ends?
Pat Fryer. They're both tight ends. They're both tight ends. Pat Fryermuth was eligible and they brought him back and he got hurt immediately. He wasn't ready. The other example is Greg Dulcich. Sometimes they come back when they're not ready. So, sometimes it's better they stay off. I'm just saying, dude. I've seen it. Tight end example for everything.
Rod Elliott's question of is Darrell Henderson droppable now?
My wife comes to me. She's like, "What do you want to have for dinner?" I'm like, "Well, I was actually just reading about something that Kate Otten said recently." Like every example.
I'm surprised you went to somebody as mainstream as Kate Otten. You weren't like, Jared Stoll is or Jack Stoll is.
I was actually just checking in on Eli Wolf after he recently retired this offseason. It's the tight end example for everything. But to answer your question, it depends how risk averse you are, honestly. Logan Thomas is the safest one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Cole Kmet, you look at it and he's doing really well right now, but the quarterback's going to switch. It's that little bit of uncertainty is annoying. And then Kyle Pitts is like, he's just a stash right now.
I can't use him at all.
You can't use him, right? You can't use him. The idea is there that maybe the MCL is getting better and that Taylor Heineke takes the team to another level, but you can't use that guy right now. So if you trade for Kyle Pitts, you're still starting Luke Musgrave. So if that were me, I would probably just go for Logan Thomas.
Logan Thomas going up against Seattle this week. So you've got the Jamal Adams situation there. And then who is it? Kmet. Oh, that's this week against Carolina, which is a decent matchup.
That's not bad.
I'd probably go Kmet this week, out of that trio.
Yeah. Well, because Musgrave has a bad matchup. The Steelers are good versus tight end. They're not good versus everything, but that's one thing they've been good at. So you probably would, if you're going to do the trade, then you're going to start whoever you trade for. That's why you probably shouldn't trade for Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Kyron Williams eligible to return week 11. We hope so. Right. Rod Elliott says, stick with the Cleveland D or drop for Seattle. Why would you drop the Cleveland D, Rod?
Don't drop Cleveland.
A little too much birthday drinking there, buddy.
I'm just starting Cleveland rest of the season no matter what. They already had their bye week. They did well against the 49ers, right? When the 49ers had everybody healthy for that game too, and they did well. So if they can do that against the 49ers, then I'm just Set it and forget it.
Yeah, I mean, I would just if I had to just use Myles Garrett and skip the whole rest of that defense, I would still do it.
Honestly, he probably has more IDP points than like half these, even if you just count his blocked field goals and sacks and stuff, probably has more points than like, the Raiders defense, the Broncos.
Oh, the Broncos Monday Night Football this week.
Yeah.
That is just in Buffalo. That's just going to be.
That's going to be bad, dude. That's going to be bad. Not as bad as did you see the spread on the Giants Cowboys game, Howard?
16. And I'm wondering why it's not more.
I know, dude. The implied total for the Giants is like 11 points. I'm wondering how they're going to get 11. Yeah, right. Like,
I was talking to a Giants fan today. We were kind of making a joke. He was talking about the fact that Saquon Barkley is the fourth string quarterback on the Giants, and his feeling is, why don't we just put Saquon Barkley in there and just run the Wildcat, put an extra lineman or two out there on the line and just let him run and occasionally let him throw. And I was like, ooh, can the Jets trade for Saquon Barkley? We could kind of use that same situation there as well.
I mean, if they get anywhere near, which they probably won't, but if they get anywhere near the goal line, I don't see why you wouldn't just go with the Saquon Wildcat. Because, I mean, I've seen Derrick Henry do it. Taysom Hill obviously can do it. Like, those throws aren't difficult to make. It's you're just doing a little pop, So
right, Derrick Henry can do it.
Derrick Henry does it, dude, and he doesn't even attempt to put his fingers on the laces when he does that, right? Like, those are not, those are not quarterback plays, but it works, right? So yeah.
Oh, shout out to Jersey Mike Subs, by the way. Danny DeVito, killer quarterback for the New York Giants. So good.
I got a Jersey Mike's right down the street, dude. I'm a member. So
there you go. Go get yourself a sub.
A DeVito. Yeah, they should add that to the. I call them up. I'm like, the usual. They're like, 2 DeVitos, extra sloppy.
Right. It's like a sub this big, and it's got like some hair in it.
It's just the bag is wet when you get it.
It's served with a full roll of paper towels.
Sloppy DeVitos. Here we go. 16. That'll be 16 points.
Dustin Ludke throwing in a little fun fact for us here. The Rams have now at some point rostered the first, second, fifth, and ninth pick in the 2016 draft.
Wow. Okay.
That's ugly.
That is bad.
That is ugly. And yet the Rams still in it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who all those players are, but it's giving me an ice cream headache. It's Jared Goff, Ndamukong Suh. Actually, is that even that draft?
First, second, fifth, and ninth.
Jalen Ramsey, maybe. That means that and then one of them is Carson Wentz.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Ethan Batterman says, I know Coop loves the Browns D, but do I go with Bender's Jets D this week? Ooh, it's against the Raiders.
If you got them both. So I was wrong with Sue. It's Goff, Wentz, Ramsey, Leonard Floyd. 3 out of 4 ain't bad, though, Bender. 3 out of 4 ain't bad. Yeah, I don't know. I think Jets, right?
I think the Jets against the Raiders would be a safe play this week. Yeah. Absolutely.
On the other one, we said don't drop the Browns, right?
Yeah,
so don't drop the Browns. But if you have the roster spot for both, then yeah, play the matchups.
Start Burrow or Fields versus a horrible Panthers defense. We can get away with this question here, Chandler, because it's a Thursday game. But I'm not starting Joe Burrow. Listen, you need a trade is really what you need to do. And I know that everybody loves running on Houston and Joe Mixon. I'm all in on him for this week, but I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it. When you've got 2 quarterbacks like that, what I would much rather do is I would rather trade Fields to somebody who really needs a quarterback and can throw you like a backup dude who you can just keep on the bench, because you're going to drive yourself bonkers sitting there going, Burrow or Fields. Right. Get some value as opposed to making yourself a nightmare decision every single week, where chances are is like at least 70% of the time you're going to end up being wrong, I'm sure, because they can be that close together. get rid of one and roll with the other and just get some added value someplace else as opposed to leaving a guy sitting on your bench the whole time.
Yeah. And I'm fully with Bender that Fields is the guy you want to trade, because don't look now. And this happens all the time with us, where the small sample size of early season, 1 game, 2 games, we sit there and my buddy Wyatt of JWB pointed out that Zay Flowers is one where he had 2 good games to start the year. And in our minds, we just say, oh, this guy's good, right? So then it doesn't matter what he's done recently. Joe Burrow is the opposite, where he started the year with over the first 4 games, he only threw 2 touchdown passes. But don't look now, because over the last 4 games, he's thrown 10. And in 3 of those games, he threw for 280 plus yards. So Joe Burrow is back, baby. Shiesty Joe is back, wheeling and dealing. So I'm trying to get all these. I talked about it on Lightning Round before this. I'm trying to get all them Bengals. Give me them all. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh, I love grabbing the Bengals right now. How good did T. Higgins look this past week, too?
Dude, the high pointing. My goodness, dude. You saw the GIF. I was like me trying to rip a phone book just watching T.
That was a great tweet. That was a great tweet on that one.
He was just making everybody look like children, though. Like crazy, man.
Oh, and you know what? Final point here of the day. I got to shout it out here to Keenan Allen's catch last night in that game. Was that not just like the most amazing like thing of beauty catch of like holding it and then kind of like rotating your whole body around and like as you're flipping over and just kind of making sure that that ball never touches the ground? That was insanity for me.
On 3rd down on a game-sealing drive. And also that particular play put him over the 10,000 yard mark for his career. It's like, that's like when, that's like Derek Jeter hit his 3,000th hit is a home run, right? It's like, it wasn't a little dink and dunk play to get the milestone. It was a catch. I've never seen anything that looked like it before. It was just like ridiculous.
It was very ridiculous. Very, and very, very impressive. It made me proud to have Keenan Allen on one of my fantasy teams. Yeah, it really did.
It was nice.
All right, look at that. Chef TPDB says Jacob Eason signed with the Giants. That doesn't help.
Right.
And Rod Elliott wants to know, do we expect Debo back? I don't know. You're just going to have to wait for the news, Rod, because Coop and I, we're done. We're out of here. We thank all you guys out there for tuning in. Again, spread the word. Hit that like and subscribe button on the old YouTube page. Big thank you to Brian Burns, our illustrious producer. For Andrew Cooper, I'm Howard Bender. We'll catch you next time.
Brian Burns. That guy's winning. I cannot say enough about Brian Burns. Brian Burns.